kaya yung pagkakaiba ng quantitative base sa qualitative method in forecasting? Okay, so for the qualitative method of forecasting uses market research, expert knowledge, and consumers' opinion and judgment. So, kumbaga, kailangan pang mag-research kung ano pa yung base. Hindi involved ang numbers pa rin dito. More on market research, expert knowledge, and consumers' opinion and judgment. Aside from that, to systematize outcomes in a forecast and apply to intermediate or long-range decisions rather. There are different types so far of qualitative methods wherein isa-isain ko naman po lahat yan. We have the Delphi method, market survey, executive opinion, sales force composite. Okay, these are the different that parts of types of forecasting in a qualitative method. Okay, to continue, what about quantitative? Okay, of course, quantitative forecast method uses past data, okay, to forecast future data. Okay, bigyan ng past data, forecast the future data, or you can forecast the present data so far. Especially with numerical data and continuous pattern. Unlike dito sa qualitative, more on textual opinions, so kailangan pang mag-research so far. Textual forms po pag qualitative methods. Sa quantitative, more on numbers, especially with numerical data and continuous pattern. This method is generally used for short-term predictions. Pag sinabing short-term predictions, so far, good for one day, nagtatagal lang siya in months. It is based on mathematical models and objective in nature. Kasi, say for example, for first day, second day, dapat yung past prediction mo, predict mo for the second day, third day, dapat tama po yun. Kasi pag mali, ibig sabihin, it will lead you to a wrong output or data. So the outcome of this method relies entirely on the mathematical calculations. So you need to solve, of course, tama po ba yung computations ko? Pag mali, so far, magiging mali din yung output. So time series and associative models are part of this type of forecasting. So unlike dito sa qualitative method, so far we have the Delphi market survey, what else? And the opinion sales first composite. Okay, but then mostly naman, since we are talking with numbers, usually naman, uh, more on quantitative methods po ang forecasting. Okay, so what is all about the time series, or what is the difference between the time series and associative models of quantitative methods? So these are the difference so far for the types of forecasting. Ito muna pala. For the qualitative, we have the executive opinion, market survey, sales force composite, and the Delphi method. While quantitative, we have the time series models and of course the associative models. Okay. So what is the difference between, or what is all about the time series model in a quantitative forecasting method? So when you say time series models, method, you rather uses purely historical data and underlying past identifiable patterns. Aside from that, used to predict so far the future and is comparably simple and accurate over the short term. Kasi makikita mo siyang accurate for one day, 2 days, 3 days, and 1 month. Kita mo talaga na accurate kasi ganun lang, in a short, simple. Okay? So, comparatively simple, accurate over the short term. And then, time series method is of various types. May mga types pa rin yan. If quantitative methods has two types, which is the time series model and the associative model. For time series, there are also various types which are seasonal indexes, so for trend projection, exponential smoothing, naive, and etc. Okay, lahat po yan, don't worry, isa-isa natin. Okay, kung paano din siya isa-solve so far. And then while associative model is also called the casual models. Okay? And in this method, the forecasted variable is dependent on the other variables in the environment. Kung baga nakadepende dependent sa independent variable niya. They are based on the assumption that the past relationship between dependent and dependent variables. If you can still remember yung linear regression, correlation, it is the relationship between two variables. Ito po yung application ng associative model na yan, wherein ang magiging graph nyo dyan, it is a line so far. Will remain the same in the future and accordingly use independent variable as the predictor. Okay, so this is the difference between our time series versus associative model. For the time series method, make forecast based on past patterns in the data. Ano pa yung given data for the first day or for the first year, for the second year, yun po. Kumbaga, nakabase doon. Well, associative model is also known as a causal model. So it is probably the simplest method to deploy. Okay, aside from that, its forecast can be quite accurate over short term. Then time series are tabulated or graph to show the nature of the time dependence. Also, this model is useful for the short time rather, required to analyze growth stages to predict short-term outcomes. While associative use a linear regression also is one of the simplest forms of an associative model of forecasting. So pag sa linear regression, ang graph niya it is a line from the word line, linear. Associative models assume that the forecasted variable is related to the other variable in the event. Kumbaga, may relationship sila sa bawat variable. So they try to project based upon those associations. Then this form of analysis can take several months and is used for medium term forecast. Unlike sa time series, good for since a short term siya, kasi short term kasi nag-last for days, months, unlike some medium term forecast from months to 2 years. And then pag long term, more than 2 years na po yun. Okay, so these are the advantages or so far and disadvantages of quantitative forecasting method. Parang nabanggit ko na to kanina. Pag mali yung output mo, yung input for the past data, actually magiging mali din yung mga output mo, kumbaga. Quantitative forecasting methods are very easy to predict based on the underlying information. So the data can be used to forecast automatically without many complications. So any person can easily forecast on the basis of the available data. Siguro, pag makita nyo, say for example, sa sales, say sa seasonal index, example na lang, ilan ba yung season sa Pilipinas? Okay, so ilang seasons, may summer tayo, di ba? May summer, ano pa, during summer, mas malaki-laki yung sales, kumbaga, kasi pag summer, mas marami yung mabenta, di ba po? Like pag mainit ang panahon, ay malamig tama. Pag malamig, hindi masyadong mabenta, yung mga konti lang. So sa summer, kahit ano yung mga palamig, ano pa yung mga ice, marami yung mga mainit pang payong, di ba? Mga sa pagdating sa mga damit, okay, mabenta yung mga sando, sa mga so nakadepende. Okay? So, makikita nyo na mismo, mape-predict nyo based on the given data. Alin po kaya ang pwedeng dagdagan? Alin po kaya ang pwedeng bawasan? Okay? And then, one of the main disadvantages so far of this method, it is its dependence on the data. So the entire forecasting depends on the data of the underlying model. So an error is in the available data can lead to wrong forecasting. Say for example, for the first month nilagay mo is say 500 and then hindi pala yun ang pwedeng ilagay, 600 or 800. And then, say, kung mali-mali, gaya ng sabi ko, pag mali-mali po yung na-input, magiging mali din po yung, it will lead, of course, to wrong forecasting. So, this method can also be used only if the proper data is available. So, this method cannot also evaluate the effect of changes in the other variables. May question po ba? Pag may tanong, pwede pong magtanong. Okay, so aside from that, quantitative forecasting details. We have the causal, econometric forecasting rather. Okay, so we have here some forecasting methods try to identify the underlying factors that might influence the variable that is being forecast. Say, for example, including information about climate patterns might improve the ability of the model to predict umbrella sales. Okay, so sa climate, sa season, sa climate, pag mainit ang panahon, wala sa akin. Teka lang po ah. Okay, sana pa ako? Ayan. For the climate patterns, as I've said a while ago, uh, it might improve the ability to for a model to predict umbrella sales. So, pag masyadong mainit ang panahon, maulan, di ba? Ayan. Okay, forecasting models often take account of regular seasonal variations. Okay, so to continue, asa na ba ako? So in addition to climate, such variations can also be due to holidays and customs. For example, one might predict that sales of college football apparel will be higher during the football season than during the off-season. So, ayun po yung examples, kumbaga. So, you're going to consider the climate, the seasons, what else, yung seasonal man yan, during holidays and customs. But then, usually, di ba po, mapapansin nyo mamaya dun sa given example ko sa figure, makikita nyo kung alin yung mga aling months yung mga product na mas madaming mabebenta kahit hindi siya seasonal, hindi naaayon sa climate. Okay, so we have here the several informal methods used in causal forecasting. Do not rely solely on the output of mathematical algorithms, but instead use the judgment of the forecaster. Some forecasts so far take account of past relationship between variables. If one variable has, for example, been approximately linearly related to another for a long period of time, possible na pataas, pababa, going to the right, up, or downward po siya. So it may be appropriate to extrapolate such relationship into the future without necessarily understanding the reasons for the relationship. Okay. So one of the most famous causal model is the regression analysis. If you can still remember the regression analysis, the relationship between the two variables, independent and the dependent variables. So in this, statistical modeling, regression analysis is a set of a statistical process for estimating the relationships among the variables. Okay, it includes many techniques for modeling and analyzing several variables when the focus is on the relationship between a dependent and one or more independent variables, or what we call the predictors. Predictors, independent, dependent, it is the cause. Okay, more specifically, regression analysis helps one understand how the typical value of the dependent variable or what we call the criterion a variable changes and any of the independent variable is varied. So while the other independent variables are held fixed. Okay, so question po, may tanong po ba? Okay, so let's proceed to the demand patterns. Actually, for the demand patterns, we have the trend, the cycle, what else? We have the seasonal, irregular, and the random variation. So what is all about the trend? So a trend is a consistent upward or downward movement of the demand. This may be related to the product's life cycle. So possible na pataas, papaba, okay? Or tumataas, pababa, taas, baba. Okay? So what about cycle? Cycle is a pattern in the data that tends to last more than 1 year in duration. Often, they are related to events such as interest rates. Okay, so magkano po ba yung interest niyan? What else? The political climate, consumer confidence, or other market factors. While seasonal, of course, many products have a seasonal pattern. So generally predictable changes in demand that are recurring every year. So far, so fashion products, so these are example, and sporting goods are heavily influenced by seasonality. Okay? So while irregular variations, often demand can be influenced by an event or series of events that are not expected to be repeated in the future. Examples might include an extreme weather event, strike at a college campus, or power outage. So these are also examples of irregular variations. Then for random variations so far, these are unexplained variations in demand that remain after all other factors are considered. Often, this is referred to as noise. So these are examples of, or these are the graphs of, or the diagram of trend, cyclical, and seasonal in-demand patterns. So for the time, okay, we have here, depending kung ilang years, ilang months. So as you can see, we have the time for the demand for trend, irregular variation po siya. Possible na pataas, tapos biglang baba, or tataas hanggang pataas ng pataas, or bababa din siya. Ganun siya kasimple. Then for cyclical, it will last for 1 year so far. Eh, ito po siya, taas, baba, possible taas, baba. Okay, so or pataas, pataas. Ganito po siya. Makikita nyo. And then for the time, seasonal so far, mapapansin niyo dito November, December, pagdating po dito sa mga months na 'to, okay, so dito baba lang, pataas, tumaas siya pagdating seasonal. Mapapansin 'pag November, December, lalo na 'pag December, 'di ba, kahit anong products mabili 'yan. Kasi 'pag tingnan niyo, pansinin niyo yung mga mahilig pumunta sa mga mall, kahit saan, sa mga divisoria, mga mall, kung minsan. Ang daming tao, 'di ba? Eh, diyan naglalabasan yung mga pera ng tao. Pansinin niyo 'pag ibang buwan na, say pagdating na ng March, April, May, okay, kokonti na lang. Dito kasi maraming pera mga tao, diyan yung mga bonuses minsan. Okay, so ayan, um, diyan natin makikita talaga ng sa mga, uh, usually sa mga tawag dito, sa marami din silang tawag dito, maraming benta or sales, mga inaanak, ma'am, naglalabasan. Yes, kasi alam nila, namamasko po, something like that. Okay, so, ayun. Ayan, ang daming nabibili kahit hindi na napapanahon, binibili talaga yan sa mga months na yan. Okay, so we have here the time series method so far. Time series methods use historical data as a basis of estimating future outcomes. A time series is a series of data points indexed or listed or graphed in time order. So most commonly used time series is a sequence that are taken successively equally spaced points in time. Aside from that, it is a sequence of discrete time data. But for 1 month, 2 years, 3 years, discrete po siya. Okay, examples of time series are heights of ocean tides, what else? Counts of sunspots, and the daily closing value of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So these are examples of time series. And marami pa yan. So time series are very frequently plotted via line plots. So sa time series line plots, so ibig sabihin it is a line plots. Okay? May question po ba? Pag may tanong, feel free to ask questions. Time series are used in statistics, signal processing, pattern recognition. So these are the some applications or uses of time series, econometrics, mathematical finance, so far in business math, weather forecasting, earthquake prediction, electroencephalology, encephalography, control engineering, astronomy, communications engineering, and largely in any domain of applied science and engineering which involves temporal measurement. So, pag pinag-uusapan, mostly pag measurements, numbers, we use the time series. Okay, so sa statistics din, ginagamit po yan. Okay, question po. So these are the different types of time series method. Actually, there are 5. We have the naive method. What else? We have the simplest moving average. We have also the weighted moving average. The next one, the 420 exponential smoothing, and the last one is the seasonal index so far. Okay, so isa-isahin po natin the different types of time series. Okay, the first one so far, don't worry, isi-send ko naman to sa Google Classroom later on Friday, Thursday rather. Okay, kasi sa Thursday pa yung activity nyo. So for 4, 4, 4, 7. Okay, for the naive method, okay, so we have this the method wherein it is a simplest forecasting method. Okay, in this case, the forecast for the next period is set as the actual demand for the previous period. Okay, this method of forecasting may often be used as a benchmark in order to evaluate and compare other forecasts. Aside from that, okay, as yun po yung naive method. Okay, this is the simplest, okay, pinaka-simple sa lahat wherein yung forecast mo for the next period. Yun na po yung actual demand for the previous period, kumbaga. Okay, so another one is the simple of moving average. So it's as simple as that. Okay, in this method, we take the average of the last n periods and we use that as the forecast for the next period. Okay, last n period, say for example, you're going to compute for the simple moving average of period 10. So meaning, based on 5 periods. So, ibig sabihin, mag-start kayo pataas from period 8, 7, 6, 5, and 4. Hanggang doon lang po. Kasi based dun sa given problem, based on the 5 period. Mamaya-maya maintindihan niyo sa given example. So, the value of n can be defined by the management in order to achieve a more accurate forecast. For example, a manager may decide to use the demand values for the last 4 periods. Okay, when say last 4 periods, so meaning our n is 4. For the last 15 periods, n is 15. Last 9 periods, n is 9. So to calculate the 4-period moving average forecast for the next period. So pag sinabi namin next period, period 5 period. Okay, let's set this example. So, based on the given example, pag may tanong po kayo dito, feel free to ask question. Nakikita po ba? Maliwanag ba yung our presentation? Pinalakihan ko lang konti. Okay na po? Okay, so for here, as you can see, this is an example of simple moving average. We're needing, teka lang ha. Okay, so to continue, we have the meaning. Ano ba yung meaning? It is the actual demand observed in period. So, mapapansin nyo po dito sa given example na natin. The actual demand so yes, ito na demand for period 1 is 42. Kumbaga, given na po ito. Okay? So, period 2 is 37, period 3 is 34, and period 4 is 14. Okay. And then forecasting forecast for the WUTT. Okay. So based on the given example natin, given from periods 1 to 4, and going forecast for the period 5. So ano yung MF natin sa tingin nyo? Going forecast for the period 5. So MF is F, ano po, F4 ba? F4 or F5 na yan? Okay, forecast. Yes, exactly. Yes, right. Since you're going forecast, calculate forecast for period 5 based on the period moving average. So, ibig sabihin, based on the 3 period moving average, so mag-start tayo sa period 5. Okay, below bago mag-period 5, ang consider 9. Paano pag period 7, below period 7, when it's period 6, start. So, since may problem, I forecast based on the period moving average. So, mag-start tayo sa period 4, period 3, period 2. Bakit hindi na isali period 1? Okay, kasi based on the period moving average. So from period 4 to lang siya. Pero wala na naka-indicate na just nakalagay dyan na yung sa maling table, calculate forecast for period 5. So, ibig sabihin, kunin mo ang period 4. Maniwala ba? Okay? So, feel free to listen. Dyan pa rin kayo. Type your favorite food pag nandyan pa sa klase. Maya ba na exercise balak niya atang matulog. Joke lang po. Okay, kare. So, yan. Okay, maraming gulay din. Tulong. spaghetti. Ayan, buhay na buhay pa pala kayo talaga. Mamaya, don't worry. Mga favorite na yan. Ang luto nyo na. Para isang araw lang pala pahinga nyo. Ay, gutom na. Sige, okay. Sige, isang kape. Pampagising talaga ng peso. Okay. Sige, let's proceed. Buti naman nervous laging Sir Cabradilla po nagkakape. Ayun. For forecast po, unit 5. Okay, F5. Okay, F5. Kailan nag-ulam yan? Yes. Paborito ko. Inumin niya yan. Okay. Ayun, pangatlo na sa isang araw. Kulang-kulang sa pasuya, nagkakape ka lang. Masama-sama po yan sa pag laging nagkakape. Maging nervousin ka. Okay? Hindi masyado. Pero ayun. To get for the period 5, i-add lang po natin. This is for simple moving average so far. By the way, pag ito pinakataon sa inyo by group, madali lang. So, ang pinakamahirap sa lahat is yung smooth exponential nalina pabaliktad po yan. So, yan din lang po yan. So, D4 is 40, D3 plus D3. Okay, demand for period 3 is 34 plus 37 divided by 3. So, 111 divided by 3 is 37. So, mapo-forecast nyo na po kung ano yung nasa period 5, which is 37. Okay, question po, tanong. Pag wala, let me proceed. So, ganun lang po kasi for the simple moving average. So, i-add nyo lang po. Mag-i-start po kayo. So, ang given po dyan is hanggang period 7. I-forecast nyo yung period 8. So, i-add nyo lang from period 7 hanggang 1 divided by 7. Pero pag sinabi sa problem, forecast based on 2 period moving average. Okay, ito na lang din gamitin ko. Instead of 3 moving average. So, alin lang po yung i-add natin sa tingin nyo? Pag 2
Yung
moving
4 tsaka
average
3 po.
Okay, yes. Okay, so it is 4 and 3 lang po. Paano pag forecast, calculate the forecast for period 5? Ganun lang. Ano po yung gagawin dyan? Add nyo from 4 to 1. Exactly, that's correct. Okay, napakasimple naman, napakadali. Let's proceed now to weighted moving average. Okay, so for the weighted moving average, from the word weight, sa pag may na sinabing weight, may bigat. Okay, may bigat siya. Okay, may ilan kayo weight niya. Okay, so may limit lang din yung weight niya so far, where it is equal to 1. Paano pag hindi equal to 1? Okay, the method is the same as the simple moving average. But then, in addition of weight for each one of the last n periods, in practice, these weights need to be determined in a way to produce the most accurate forecast. Okay, using the same example so far, ito pa rin gagamitin nating example. Okay, para alam nyo kung paano. Kasi ganun din ang gagawin natin sa activity nyo next meeting. Magbigay ako ng measures yung last part na i-discuss ko, and then isang problem, actually dalawang problem yon. Then ito, isang problem dito, then isang grupo sa inyo magsosolve sa simple, isang grupo ang magsosolve sa weighted, isang grupo ang magsosolve sa smoothing exponential. Yun po yung medyo mahaba-haba. So maswerte kayo pag napunta sa inyo yung simple moving average. Okay, so to continue, ayan po. For the weighted average, same example tayo. As you can see, we have the period, 1 to 4 pa rin. Pero yung bibigay ko sa activity nyo, 1 to 10. Yan tayo, mami. Mas marami sa activity. Okay, 1 to 10. And then actual demand is yan pa rin. For the period 1, 42. Period 2 is 37. Period 3 is 34. And then for the period 4 is 40. And then walang weight po yung period 1. Hindi nalagyan. Ang nalagyan lang is periods 2, 3, and 4, which is 0.2, 0.3, and 0.5. So, ibig sabihin, pag kinompute ko yung tag ito, weighted moving average niyan, just same example pa rin po. Since same example, base, okay, inuulit ko po based on the 3-period moving average. So, meaning, kukunin pa rin from D4, D3, and D2. Bakit hindi po nasama yung D1? Kasi based on the 3 moving average, mag-start po kayo lagi sa katabi ng given, which is F5. So pag F5, start kayo sa D4. Okay? So pag F10, start kayo sa D9. Okay? Yun tatandaan nyo. Then, bibilangin nyo lang kung ilan yung kinakailangan, kung ilan yung i-forecast nyo. Okay? So, you have to, ganun, 0.5 times D4, 0.3 times D3, plus 0.2 times D2. Saan po nakuha yan? Dito pa rin siya nanggaling sa mga weight niya. Minultiply lang po yan. Okay? And then, all you have to do so far is just multiply. No need to divide. So far, multiply nyo yung 0.4 times 4, 0.5 times 40, plus 0.3 times 34, plus 0.3 times 37, which is equal to 37.6. Ayun na po yung weighted moving average. Okay, so you have to take note. If the sum of all weights were not equal to 1, so mapapansin nyo po dito, pag inad nyo yung 0.5, 0.3 at saka 0.2 equals 1 po siya. So, ayun na po yung weighted moving average. Ma'am, paano po pag hindi equals sa 1? So, this number above had to be divided by the sum of the weights to get the correct weighted moving average. Just in case na, eto, limbawa lang, etong instead na 0.5, naging 0.6. Again, ulit ko instead na 0.5, naging 0.6. So, ilan na po? Ilan na po yung weight niya, hindi na equal sa 1. Ilan po yung weight pag 0.6 to? Pinalitan ko lang 0.6. Ilan po? 1.1. Tama? Tama po ba?
Opo, ma'am.
Yes,
Opo,
1.1.
ma'am.
Yes, para makuha
Improvement.
po, okay, inuulit ko pag equals na sa 1, yung weight niya, yun na po yung sagot. Pero pag hindi pa equals sa 1, so 1.1, ang gagawin nyo para ma-predict nyo yung exact or the correct weighted moving average, i-divide nyo yung 37.6 by 1.1. So, ayun na po, 34.18 na po. Okay, maliwanag. Yes, Mr. Brizuela.
Ma'am, ask ko lang po, ma'am, paano, given data po ba yung 0.5, 0.3, 0.2, or ko-compute?
Yes, given na po
Given.
siya dito so far some example natin. Don't you worry. Pag
Okay
sa
po,
weight
ma'am.
naman,
Thank you po.
ayan. Andito na po, okay? Ayan sa previous slide. Ayan, given po. Okay. Ayan, okay na po? Sige.
Opo, ma'am. Thank you po.
Sige. Okay, so yun po, ganun lang kasimple. Okay, let's proceed now to exponential smoothing. Focus po tayo dito kasi medyo madali lang naman pag nakapag-focus so far. Yun nga lang, mahaba-haba yung solution nito. Okay, for the exponential smoothing, ES. Okay, this method uses a combination of the last actual demand, and the last forecast to produce the forecast for the next period. Okay, mamaya maintindihan nyo naman kung paano. There are a number of advantages to use using this method. It can often result in a more accurate forecast. Ayan po yung advantage niya. It is an easy method that enables forecast to quickly react to new trends or changes. A benefit to exponential smoothing is that it does not require a large amount of historical data. Exponential smoothing requires the use of smoothing coefficient called alpha. Okay, ano ba yung alpha na yan? Okay, for this alpha, actually yung alpha na to, it is chosen to determine how quickly the forecast responds to changes in demand. It is also referred as the smoothing factor. Usually, ang value ng alpha na to is between 0 and 1. Tandaan niyo po between 0 and 1. Ayan na pala. So, the value of alpha or the coefficient, the value of alpha is the coefficient between 0 and 1. So, mapapansin niyo po, dapat ang given 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.5. Nakalagay naman po doon. Okay? So, pag nakita niyo sa given na ang alpha niya is 1.1, mali na po yun. Okay? Kasi hindi niyo po masasolve, hindi niyo po ma-forecast using the smoothing, exponential smoothing rather. So, dapat ang value po ng alpha is between 0 and 1 lang. Okay? So, there are two versions of the same formula in calculating the exponential smoothing. So, version 1, FT. Okay, kung ilang periods, say, calculate for the period 5. Okay, FT is 5 so far. Pag-calculate for the period 20, FT is 20. Napakahabang solution pag period 20. Okay, sa period 4 lang din yung ibigay kong example. Sa exam activity nyo hanggang period 10. Okay, you have to take note that alpha is a coefficient between 0 and ito po yung formula mismo. FT, say F5 equals 1 minus the alpha times FT minus 1 plus alpha times D. t minus 1. For this method to work, we need to have the forecast for the previous period. So this forecast is assumed to be obtained using the same exponential smoothing method. So if there were no previous period forecast for any of the past periods, we will need to initiate this method of forecasting by making some assumptions. So this is explained in the next example so far. Pag napapansin nyo, hindi naman tayo makapag-forecast kasi wala tayong previous. Kumbaga, kasi if-forecast mo yung D1, paano ko if-forecast using the exponential smoothing? So you have to predict or assume that F1, actually ito na po yung example muna. Okay, same example po tayo. Ginamit ko talaga same example para makita nyo yung flow. Kasi yung activity nyo so far, pare-pareho yan, pero iba't ibang method ang gagamitin nyo. Yung isa, gagamit ng simple, yung isa weighted, yung isa exponential smoothing. Okay, kasi pagdating sa seasonal, iba na naman yung given doon. Okay, so ito po yung example natin. Period 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5, actual demand, same pa rin. For period 1, 42, period 2 is 37. The total actual demand na to so far. Then we have the period 3 is 34, then period 4 is 40. Then what is the forecast for period 1 using exponential smoothing? In this example, period 5 is our next period for which we are looking for a forecast. In order to have that, we will need to forecast for the last period, such as period 4. But there is no forecast given for period 4. Okay? So, kukunin yung if-forecast yung period 4. Kaso, wala pa. So, ano po yung gagawin? However, a similar issue exists for period 4 since we do not have the forecast for period 3. Hindi rin given sa period 3. So, ano po yung gagawin? So, you need to go back for 1 month period and calculate the forecast for period 3. So, ganun pa rin. As you can see, this will take us all the way back to period 1 kasi wala pa kayong na-forecast sa period 2 kaya hindi nyo ma-forecast ang period 3. Ganon din ang period 1 so far and so on. Because there is no period before period 1 kasi dapat pag nag-forecast ka using the exponential smoothing, mag-start ka muna sa period 1. Okay? So before period 1, wala. Paano po pag ganon? So we will need to make some assumptions. Okay? Kaya nagkakaroon ng assumptions to forecast for period 1. So one common assumption is to use the same demand of period 1 for its forecast. So this will use a forecast to start and then we can calculate the forecast for period 2. This will give us rather a forecast to start and then we calculate the forecast for period 2 from there. So let's see how calculations work out. Ito na po yung kung paano po isosolve yung uh, paano i-solve ang given demand sa period, how to forecast given demand in a period using the exponential smoothing. Okay, let us assume that the given alpha, so far ibibigay naman yung alpha sa inyo, hindi naman kayo pwedeng mag-predict dyan. Okay, say ang given alpha is 0.3. So, but in practice, this value needs to be selected properly to produce the most accurate forecast. Kaya kailangan pa rin mag-select ng siguro mas mataas para mas mataas yung forecast. Mas mababa, okay, depende, nakadepende sa kanila. Okay, this is just a given example. So, let us assume, since hindi natin ma-forecast yung F1, i-assume natin para ma-forecast natin yung F2. Okay? I-assume natin yung F1 equals D1. So, based pa rin po dito sa given example natin. Kung ano yung actual demand sa sa period 1, yun na rin yung F1 natin. So, which is 42. Okay? Then, calculate for F2. So, makakalculate. Ganun po lagi ang gagawin nyo. F1 equals D1 using this smooth exponential smoothing. Pero pag may nakalagay naman na before period 1, say for example, ito, sana ba yun? Ayan, period 1, may nakalagay dito sa bandang taas, yun na mismo yung gagamitin nyo. Mag-forecast nyo na yan. Hindi na kailangan mag-assume. Ay, ayun lang po, ganito lang po kasimple mag-solve. F2 equals, gamitin yung formula, 1 minus the alpha times F1, which is 42. Kasi pababa po yan, F1, F2. Ay, sorry, F2, F1, D1. Okay? F3, F2, D2. Pababa po yan. F4, F3, D3. then F5, D4, F4. Okay? So for the F4, 1 minus the alpha times F1 which is 42. Ang alpha natin 0.3. Saan po nanggaling? Given na po. Times 42 which is D1. Okay? Plus ayun pala, F1 is 42, D1 is 42. Pareho pa rin yung value dito. Okay, and then, kasi inassume po natin na equal po ang F1 sa D1 natin. So, all you have to do is subtract mo na yung 1 minus 0.3 times 42, and then i-multiply yung 0.3 times 42, i-add nyo, that's the time na makukuha nyo na po yung sagot, which is 42. Paano po pag hindi exact ang sagot? You have to round it off until 2 decimal places po. Pag-isapan po natin yan until 2 decimal places po, just in case man na hindi pa naka-round off yung sagot. Okay? Sige. May tanong po ba before I proceed? So, next, calculate F3 so far. Ayun, 1 minus the alpha times 42 plus 0.3 times 37. Saan po nanggaling? Dito dun pa rin sa problem. Give an example. Then, ang F2 natin is 42. 42. Saan po nanggaling yung 42? Yung sagot na po mismo dito. Okay? And then, ganun pa rin. Subtract, multiply ito, add 40.5. Okay, then for F4, ayan, ang F3 natin, meron nang na-solve, at 40.5. Substitute nyo lang. Dapat tama po yung nilalagay nyo. Ito po yung sinasabi, na pag mali yung in-input na data, magiging mali po yung output. Okay? And then, so that is 40.5 yung F3. Ayun. Multiply sa sagot sa 1 minus 0.3. Then, 0.3 times 34, i-add nyo po dito. Sa sagot dito is 38.55. Okay? So, may tanong. Then, forecast nyo na po yung F5. 1 minus alpha, 1 minus 0.3 pa rin, times 38.5. F4. Galing pa rin po dito. Parang pababa siya, pag ganun lang. 0.3 times 40. Yung D4 is 40 based on the given example. Then simplify, it is 38.985. May question po ba? Actually, this is a one way so far, the version 2. Okay, ito na po yung version 2 natin. Ano po yung D? D sa sub 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you mean D sa sub 1, 2, 3, 4, Mr. Cortez? D1 dito the actual demand so far. Ito na po, isa-substitute nyo na lang. Ang D1, demand, yes, exactly. Then forecast F. Saan po nang galing dyan? Dito po sa given problem pa rin. Ayan, 42, 37, 34, 40. So mapapansin nyo po dito sa given example, ayan o. D1, 42. Next, ang dito is 37, 34, 40. Ayun na po yung sasubstitute mismo. Okay, sige. Pag wala nang tanong, let me proceed. Actually, this is the version 2 so far. Another example naman po to. Okay? So, ayun, in-assume natin for the period 1 so far is 42. Okay, ayan na po. Then, na-solve na po yan. Yun na po yung kanina. Pag ganito lang po yung pagkakalagay. Mahaba bang computation sa last? Yes. Eto naman, ganun pa rin. Same pa rin. Kumbaga, yes, mahaba tong part na to. Kaya pag napunta sa inyo tong exponential smoothing sa grupo niyo, maswerte kayo. Maswerte talaga. Sa kabalitaran po ba yan, ma'am? Okay. Ayan. Ganyan po yung pagkakasolve. Tandaan niyo po. Don't you worry, send ko naman sa Google Classroom po yan. Okay, may question. Pag wala, let's have the version 2 na po to. Let's have another example. Actually, different naman po yung given. Okay. So, as you can see, we have ft equals ft minus 1 at plus alpha dt minus 1 minus ft minus 1. Ito naman yung another formula, kumbaga. Okay, so pipili naman kayo kung alin sa dalawa. Okay, it's either ito or ito. Okay, pareho lang naman so far yung magiging sagot niyo. Okay, so yung alpha is 0.3. And then, iba na naman po yung given dito. Pero same pa rin kung paano siya sinolve. And then, what you call this? FT. Okay? FT minus 1. plus alpha of dt minus 1 and then minus ft minus 1. Ito po yung version 2. Paano po yan? Okay, yung ft natin is say sa period 5 so far, ft minus 1 and then plus eto 60. Saan po nang galing 60? Kasi dt minus 1 dito na po siya. Pag ganun naman siya. Okay, sundan nyo lang din yung flow. Kahit alin naman po dyan yung gagamitin nyo, still it will give you or arrive at the same answer. May question po ba? Sundan nyo lang po yung formula at tama po dapat yung sinasubstitute na value. Question po, tanong. Pag wala ng katanungan, let me proceed to the next one. Okay? For the seasonal index, okay, last type na po to ng time series method. Okay, many organizations produce goods whose demand is related to the seasons or changes in weather throughout the year. In these cases, a seasonal index may be used to assist the calculation of the forecast. So makikita nyo so far sa seasonal index niya. Napakadali din to, parang simple, ganun, simple moving average yung pagkasolve doon. Pero magkaiba lang yung given kung paano po siya sinosolve. Okay, so this is an example of seasonal index. So far, as you can see, okay, so we have the seasons, different seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall. Okay, sa Philippines, ilan lang po ba yung season sa atin? Okay, wala namang winter sa atin, right? Nag-i-snow po ba? Okay, naglamig. The previous sales. Okay, so we have for the winter 390. Ano lang po yung mabili sa winter. Sa spring 460. And then for the summer, madami to. Maraming sales, 600. Ito yung maraming mabebenta kasi during summer, maraming mga pwedeng mabili na products. Kaya maraming sales. Then during the fall, we have 550. Paano po makuha yung average? Okay, ang given lang during seasonal index, pag seasonal index, ang given lang talaga season saka previous sales. Wala yung total, wala yung average sales, at saka wala yung seasonal index. Yan na nakalagay. Okay, inuulit ko po, pag seasonal index, ang given lang, seasons at saka yung previous sales. So as you can see, paano po nakuha yung average? Just add 390, 460, 600, 550 divided by 4, so 500 po. Paano po makukuha yung seasonal index? Just divide naman po ngayon. Divide nyo yung previous sales divided by the average sales. So 390 divided by 500 is 0.98, 0.78. And then 460 divided by 500 is 0.92. And then 600 divided by 500 is 1.2. And then 550 divided by 500 is 1.1. Nakuha po ba? Okay, hindi pa yan nagtatapos dyan. Okay, so to continue, using these calculated indices, we can forecast the demand for the next year based on the expected annual demand for the next year. So let's say a firm has estimated that the next year annual demand will be 2,500 units. So pwede ka nang mag-conclude dyan, ay dadagdagan ko sa ganitong season, bawasan ko sa ganitong season. Siguro pwede na akong maglagay o mag-estimate na 2,500 units. Okay, so ayun lang pala. Tapos na po yun. Kasi kailangan nyo pang predict sa kung kailan yung kung magkano po yung given demand for the next year. Okay, may tanong po ba? Question. Ayan na naman po tayo. Pa-type ng 1 sa my chat box. Pag walang tanong, para mag-proceed ako sa last part. Actually, last na po itong part na to. Okay, thank you so much for the responses. May umiiyak na ibon doon. Okay, ang daming one talaga si Mr. Venezuela. Walang katanungan. When? Kailan kaya matatapos ang klase natin? Don't you worry. Good for 10 minutes na lang to, Mr. Ramirez. Makakapagluto ka na lang. Type 1 is Clemente talaga. Okay, proceed na po ako. Actually, this is the last one. Okay, dalawang problem po ang ibibigay ko sa Wednesday. Group activity po yon, para kahit paano makapag-share kayo kung paano siya isa-solve. Okay? Kung paano isa-solve at as a review na rin. Kasi ang quiz nyo, sa Sabado, halo-halo na po yon. May, kumbaga, may time value of money at saka itong forecasting. Tayo naman yan so far as long as nakikinig kayo. At given naman, may mga formulas naman kayo. And during the exam, provided naman, just in case pag face-to-face na, provided naman yung mga formulas. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Kasi pag kayong nag-provide, nilagay nyo sa index card, for sure, baka mamaya hindi naman kailangan yung iba doon, nilagay nyo. Kaya ako na lang maglalagay. Okay, so last one is to forecast accuracy measures. Ano ba yung mga accuracy measures na yan? Sana pati answer provided. Yun lang, hindi ko may provide sa inyo ang sagot. Okay? Siguro, pagkatapos na lang yung example, provide ko yung sagot, papakita. Sige. To continue, we will calculate forecast accuracy measures such as mean absolute deviation. Actually, madali lang to. Makinig lang ng gusto. Mean squared error, okay, and the mean absolute percentage error. Okay, ito po yung mga kukumpitin nyo so far. Okay? May given table dito kung paano ito kumpitin. So, may mga examples, may example din ako dito. And then, we will explain the calculations using the next example. So, the first thing to do so far is, the following actual demand and forecast values are given for the past 4 periods. Okay, period 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? So, we want to calculate the MAD, or what we call the mean absolute deviation, MSE, the mean squared error, and the MAPE. Ano ba yung MAPE? Ma'am, isa pong subject yan no? Junior high sa grade elementary, di ba? Okay, MAPE here is the mean absolute percentage. So meaning, ang maging sagot niyo dito is in percent form. The following actual demand and forecast values are given for the past 4 periods. So we want to calculate the MAD, MSE, MAP, for this forecast to see how well it is doing. So note that ABS, what is ABS? Okay, the absolute value, ET, refers to the absolute value of the error in the period. Okay, so ito na po siya. So we have the period 1, actual demand is 63, period 2 is 59, period 3 is 54, and period 4 is of 65. And then, given na po yung forecast, na-solve na. But then, dun sa activity niya, hindi ko ipoprovide yung forecast. Okay, inulit ko hindi ko ipoprovide yung forecast, kaya isa-solve nyo pa yung forecast. Paano? Using smoothing, exponential smoothing. Pero pag given na yung forecast, swerte kayo. Ipoprovide nyo na lang yung mga kailangan dito. Since given na dito yung forecast, forecast for period 1 is 68, period 2 is 65, period 3 is 61, and period 4 is 59. Okay, so you're going to fill up the table we're in. Step 1, okay, so these are the steps. So for the step 1, calculate the error as ET equals DT minus FT. The difference between the actual demand and the forecast for any period T, and enter the values in the table below. So makikita nyo dito, saan po nakuha yung ET na yan, or the estimate error. So meaning, isusubtract nyo lang to. Yung 68 minus 63, okay, naulit ko 68 minus 63 is negative 5. 65 minus 59 is negative 6. 61 minus 54 is negative 7. Then 59 minus 65 is 6. Nakuha po, nasundan. And the next step is calculate the absolute value of the errors calculated in step 1. Okay, so pag sinabing absolute value, ang negative nagiging positive, right? Ang positive, as it is. Kaya pag kinuha mo yung absolute value ng negative 5, magiging positive 5. Negative 6, magiging positive 6. Negative 7, magiging positive 7. Then 6, ganun pa rin. Okay, question po, tanong. Pag wala, let me proceed. Then for the step 3, calculate the square error. Pag sinabing square error, i-square nyo lang yung estimate error or the square error for each period and enter the values in the table below, above na tuloy. Ay, sa ito na po siya. So, square nyo lang po yung 5, 25, then 6, 36, then 7, 49, then 6, at saka naging 36. Square nyo lang po. And then next step, calculate the absolute estimate error divided by DT times 100% for each period and enter the value under its column. Okay? So, ito, saan po galing yung 7.94 na yan? So, yung 7.94 na yan, nanggaling po sa absolute estimate error 5. Ito po. Sa 5, yung ABS, ET. Dito po siya nanggaling yan. Divided by DT. So, 5 divided by 63 so far. Ano po yung sagot? Is 0.079. And then, i-convert nyo 0.0793. Okay, so kukunin niyo po until 4 decimal places. Ma'am, bakit 4 decimal places? Kasi, i-move niyo po yan 2 places to the right. Kaya naging 7.94%. Nakuha po ba? And then next is 6 divided by 59. Okay, so ang sagot kasi dyan, 0.1017. So change it into percent or times 100%, automatic naman yan. Kasi pag divide nyo po yung 5 divided by 63 times 100%, ang lalabas na sagot is 7.94%. Ganon din dito. Move right, move 2 places to the right. Exactly. And then ganon din dito, 6 divided by 59 times 100% pa rin, 10.17. And then 7 times divided by 54, 12.96. Then 6 divided by 65 is 9.23%. Hindi pa dyan nagtatapos. Wait lang, ilaw ko lang ito ang dilim. Teka lang. Okay, so to continue, saan na ba ako? Okay, so ayan. Pagkakuha kong ilang percent, proceed po kayo, compute na po yung, kukumputin nyo na po yung the mean is absolute deviation, the mean squared error, at saka the mean absolute percentage error. Hindi pa pala tapos, ma'am. Yes, hindi pa talaga tapos yan. Table pa lang yan. Kinuha nyo pa lang yung mga kailangan na data. Okay, and then eto na po. For the mean absolute deviation, just get the average on what you had we had calculated in step 2. Kung ano man yung sinolve natin dun sa step 2. The average of all the absolute value error values. Ito po mismo. Yung 5, 6, 7, 6. Take note niyo po ha. Okay, so for the MAD, yung 5, 6, 7, 6. Bakit hindi mo po kinuha yung ET? Kasi hindi po pwedeng maging negative. Saan po ba kayo nakita magiging negative? Kailangan dapat pag nag-forecast, positive po yan. Di ba ganun po talaga? Laging positive. Kahit palugi na yung negosyo, palugi na talaga. Positive ka rin pa rin dapat. Kaya bawal maging negative. Yan pinagkukuha na ng hanap buhay. Kumbaga, kasing iba minsan, pag palugi na, diba, ano bang ginagawa? Sungkol na sila, hindi na nila tinutuloy. Pero lakasan lang daw ng loob pag nagbi-business. Eh, ayun. And then next is, nakuha po 5, 6, 7, 6. Yes, Mr. Silva. Tanong.
Ma'am, pwede po magtanong po. Yung sa previous slide po, ma'am.
Okay, see. Ito po ba?
Yes po, ma'am. Bakit ang absolute value po ng 6 is 6 din po? Yung nasa baba
Yes,
po,
negative
number
6
4.
po to. Yes, positive kasi siya, positive, positive pa rin. So, kung
Balik,
positive, positive pa rin. Yes,
okay
positive,
po.
positive pa rin. Yung
Tama
mga
po.
negative, ipa-positive nyo talaga. Okay na, Mr. Silva? Okay.
Okay
Sige.
na po.
Positive pa rin. Sige po. Take note of that one. Pero pag puro positive to, ibig sabihin, ABS, absolute value of error, value, ibig sabihin, kopyahin nyo lang din yan. Say, puro positive 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 6, 7, 6 din ang ilalagay yun dyan. Dapat ipakita nyo pa rin sa table. Okay? Sige. Ayan. Then the MSE so far is the average of what we had calculated in step 3. So the average of all the squared error values. So yung add nyo naman ngayon, ito naman yung 25, 36, 49, 36. Divided by, ilan po ba yan? 4 pa rin, which is 36.5. May question po ba? Pag wala ng tanong, let me proceed. Then yung MAPE, it is the average of what we calculated in step 4. Ano ba yung nakakompute natin sa step 4? So actually, ang step 4, nag-move na siya. Step 4 ay ito, yung 7.94, 10.17, 12.96, at saka 9.23. Divided by 4 pa rin. Kaya nakuha yung 10.075%. Okay, yun po. Ganyan po ang pag-compute ng accuracy measures. Okay, question po, tanong. May katanungan po ba? Or uwing-uwi na kayo na naman. May tanong? Pwede magtanong.